Well, this year I retired. You know, I threw in with these guys, help them become successful gold miners. Look in front of you, you know. So it's time to step aside and let a younger guy get in that could use the job.
Well, we're sad to see you go, Chris.
Thank you.
It was a day that stunned the gold rush world. The news broke that Chris Doumitt was leaving Parker Schnabel. Today, we reveal the truth about why Chris left Parker Schnabel. The show wants you to believe it was just burnout from the 10,000-ounce goal, but that's not the whole story. The thing nobody tells you is that a massive financial disagreement and a fundamental clash of values had been brewing behind the scenes.
Everything has to be cleaned in the gold room. I can't do that. I just can't. Why have a third plant if you can't keep it clean?
This wasn't a simple retirement, it was a dramatic showdown. The real reason Chris walked. To really get what happened, we have to look at the goal that started the fire. 10,000 ounces. Parker didn't just want to mine gold, he wanted to mine an amount so huge it sounded like a typo. 10,000 ounces. That's over 600 pounds of pure gold. At today's prices, that's worth a staggering $20 million. To hit a number that big, you can't just work hard. You have to do the impossible. And the weight of that impossibility landed squarely on Chris Doumitt's shoulders.
I got it. We have the tank for the concentrate from the sluice box. It's in the gold room now.
It's funny when you think about it. In a world of giant multi-ton machines and massive earth-moving operations, the whole enterprise hinges on the tiny, glittering specks recovered at the very end. That final step was Chris's domain, the gold room. Normally, managing the cleanup from one or even two wash plants is a demanding, meticulous job. An error there could cost thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But for this season, Parker wasn't running one or two plants. He decided to run 3 wash plants at the same time. There was Big Red, the reliable workhorse. There was Rock Monster, a beast in its own right. And then there was Lucifer, the massive main plant. 3 streams of gold-rich concentrates, all flowing into one man's hands. The workload went from hard to just plain brutal. Imagine finishing a 12-hour shift, your body aching, only to realize you have to clean out the sluice boxes from not one, but 3 massive machines. It's not just rinsing out some dirt, it's a painstaking, careful process to make sure not a single flake of gold gets lost. For Chris, who isn't a young man anymore, this nonstop grind was more than just a job. It was a physical ordeal. He was the guy who never complained, the one who just got the work done.
Mining is more of a science than it is just digging. It's just not a matter of turning the machine on and turn the water on and start running dirt. You gotta figure it out.
But this season, you could see the cracks forming. He was drowning. The pressure was so intense that for the first time in his long career with Parker, he had to speak up. It was either that or collapse. Something had to give. The crew was stretched so thin that pulling someone off a dozer or a rock truck to help in the gold room was out of the question. Every single person was essential to feeding the 3 hungry wash plants. This left Chris in an impossible spot. He finally threw out a name, Tatiana Costa. She was one of the best equipment operators on the team, but she had 0 experience in the delicate art of gold recovery. It was a desperate move. Proposing to take a top operator out of the field was a huge ask, one that Parker's other foremen, Mitch and Tyson, were not going to like. But the alternative was watching Chris walk away for good. Parker, for all his relentless drive, knew he couldn't lose Chris. The decision was made. Tatiana would be trained and Chris would finally get some help. But you have to wonder, was it already too little? Too late? The damage was done. The message was clear. Parker's ambition for 10,000 ounces was more important than the well-being of his most loyal man, but what many overlooked is that this public cry for help was just the tip of the iceberg. Behind the scenes, the real fight was about value. Chris wasn't just tired, he was fed up with being undervalued. Parker's ambition created the problem, but where did this insane drive come from? A phenomenon named Schnabel. You can't talk about the pressure on Chris Doumitt without talking about the source of that pressure, Parker Schnabel himself. Parker isn't just a gold miner, he's a phenomenon. Born in the mid-90s in the tiny town of Haines, Alaska, he was practically raised in a gold mine. His grandfather, the legendary John Schnabel, ran the Big Nugget Mine, and while other kids were playing video games, Parker was learning to operate bulldozers and excavators. By the time he was old enough to drive a car, he was already an old pro with heavy machinery. Here's the first wow factor that people forget. Parker took over the family mine when he was just 16 years old. Imagine being a teenager and telling grown men twice your age what to do. But he wasn't just a bossy kid. He had the knowledge and, more importantly, the work ethic to back it up. He briefly considered going to college to study geology, but let's be honest, a classroom could never contain his ambition. Instead of taking out student loans, he took his life savings and poured it into his own mining operation. Then came Gold Rush, and the world was introduced to this teenage mining prodigy. But being on TV wasn't enough. In a move that stunned everyone, he left his family's operation, went to the Yukon, leased his own ground, and started from scratch. It was a massive gamble, but it paid off spectacularly. In his very first solo season, he pulled over 1,000 ounces of gold out of the ground. From that moment on, his trajectory was a straight line pointing up. His gold totals grew exponentially each season, leaving his rivals like Todd Hoffman in the dust.
Let's see how much we got here.
20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120,
No way.
140, 185.15.
That's not a bad run.
He wasn't just mining, he was innovating, constantly pushing for more efficiency, bigger machines, and higher yields. This relentless drive is what made him a multimillionaire before he was even 30. But the thing nobody tells you is that this same drive has a dark side. Parker's ambition is insatiable. Hitting a record isn't a cause for celebration, it's just a new baseline that has to be shattered the following year. This creates an environment of unending pressure. For Parker, there is no good enough. This obsession has taken a toll on his personal life. His relationship with Australian veterinary nurse Ashley Ewell, who even appeared on the show, fell apart. He admitted it himself. He couldn't balance work and his personal life. For Parker, mining always comes first. This single-minded focus is what led to the 10,000-ounce goal. To him, it wasn't an insane, crew-breaking target, it was just the next logical step. He is so focused on the summit that he sometimes fails to see the people he's pushing to get there. He fails to see the human cost, and that's the clash of values that drove Chris away. Parker sees people as tools to get to the gold, but Chris was different. But who was the man Parker was pushing? He wasn't just any employee. The carpenter who became kingmaker. To really get why Chris Doumitt's departure is such a massive deal, you have to understand who he is. He wasn't just another guy on the crew. He was the secret ingredient to Parker's incredible success. And here's the craziest part. Chris Doumitt wasn't even a gold miner to begin with. He stumbled into this world almost by accident. He started out as a carpenter, hired to build cabins for Todd Hoffman's original crew back in the early seasons. He was just a guy with a hammer and a saw. But one thing led to another, and soon enough, he found himself knee-deep in the mud and the madness of gold mining. And it turned out he had a knack for it, a real one. When he eventually made the switch over to Parker's team in Season 4, that's when everything clicked into place. Parker was the young, fiery prodigy with the big ideas. But Chris was the steady hand, the voice of experience that turned those wild ambitions into actual weighable gold. His meticulous work in the gold room helped Parker smash records year after year. Let's look at the numbers. Season 5, over 2,500 ounces. Season 7, over 4,300 ounces. Season 8, over 6,200 ounces. Season totals kept climbing, eventually hitting over 7,300 ounces. Those numbers simply do not happen without a master in the gold room. Chris wasn't just cleaning gold, he was maximizing profit and turning a risky operation into a finely tuned, money-making machine. He was instrumental in generating tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue for Parker. But let's be real, his value went way beyond the numbers on a scale. Chris was the glue that held the entire operation together. You see, gold mining is a pressure cooker. You've got long hours, brutal weather, constant equipment breakdowns, and a boss who demands perfection.
With this material, you can't push it. If you want to get gold, you just go steady. Give me the loader and the wash plant. What other choice you got?
Sounds like a plan.
He was willing to do that. I know reluctantly, because he wanted to just push dirt as hard as he could through the thing.
Tempers flare, arguments break out, and morale can sink faster than a rock in a pond. In that chaotic environment, Chris was the calm in the storm. With his easygoing attitude and sharp sense of humor, he knew how to diffuse tension and keep the team from turning on each other. He was the guy everyone, including Parker, could turn to when things got too intense. He was more than a foreman. He was a mentor and a friend. Over the years, he became a key decision maker. Parker trusted his judgment on everything from the best way to process a certain type of pay dirt to managing crew drama. He wasn't just an employee. He was a foundational piece of the entire empire. His departure isn't like losing a good rock truck driver. It's like pulling the cornerstone out of a building. The whole structure is now at risk of collapse. So how did Parker let the cornerstone of his entire operation crumble? Why he really chose himself. This is where it all comes together. This is the real reason Chris Doumitt left. It wasn't just that he was tired, it was a slow burn of disrespect that finally reached its flashpoint. The show focused on the physical breakdown. We all saw it. Parker's voice on the show, "This is the first time that we've tried to run 3 plants at once."
He wanted to run 2 plants, 2 crews. He gave us a choice. We could either work with him or work with Dave.
And really, the success of the season depends on us being able to do it. No pressure, right? The success of a $20 million season rested on one man in the gold room. We saw Chris, exhausted, finally admit, "You know what, with 2 plants, I could do it. I hate to be whining and complaining, but this is reality. I can't do 3. But what the show didn't focus on was the massive financial disagreement and the clash of values that sources mentioned. Let's read between the lines. For years, Chris Doumitt was the loyal soldier. He did the work, he calmed the crew, and he made Parker millions. Now, Parker was chasing his most extreme goal yet, and he put Chris in an impossible position, forcing him to work himself to the breaking point. You have to wonder if after all those years, Chris started to feel like just another piece of equipment. A valuable piece, sure, but one that could be run into the ground until it broke. The decision to bring in Tatiana wasn't a favor from a grateful boss. It was a desperate last-minute patch to a problem Parker himself had created. It was a solution that only came after Chris was forced to break down on camera. For a man like Chris, who values loyalty and respect, that must have been a tough pill to swallow. This is the core of it, the real reason. It sends a message that the goal is all that matters, not the people. After generating hundreds of millions of dollars, Chris was still forced to beg for help, to justify his own physical limits.
The bowl has ridges in it, and as it's spinning, the gold is being cast up into those ridges and being captured. All the impurities are getting washed over the top. What doesn't make it through the screen, the pickers, the nuggets, they'll come down into another sluice box down here.
That's the clash of values. Parker, the kid who can't stop, sees only the gold. Chris, the man who built the foundation, sees the people. This wasn't a snap decision made in the heat of a tough season. This was years of accumulated exhaustion, both physical and mental. It's the story of a man looking at his future and asking, is it worth it? Is another season of unrelenting stress, of chasing another impossible number for someone else's legacy, worth sacrificing his health and his peace of mind? The real reason Chris Doumitt left is that he chose himself. He chose to step away from the madness before it consumed him completely. He had nothing left to prove. He helped build the empire. He saw it reach heights nobody thought possible. And then he decided he was done. It wasn't about quitting, it was about knowing when to walk away. It's a decision most of us can understand, choosing a quiet life over a chaotic one, even if it means leaving a mountain of gold behind. Was Chris Doumitt a victim of Parker's relentless ambition, or did he simply cash in his chips at the perfect time? Let us know your thoughts below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden truths.